advisor and former ambassador to the United Nations under George W. Bush, John Bolton. Always good to have you back on the program, Ambassador Bolton. Let's just talk about what happened last night, yesterday. Your reaction, and do you think President Donald Trump is responsible for inciting the mob that stormed the Capitol?
Well, it was a very sad day for the United States. We really haven't seen this kind of assault on the physical symbol of our democracy in a long, long time. And I know a lot of Americans are very discouraged about it. And what was probably the worst aspect of all was that the mob that attacked the Capitol building was incited by the President of the United States, using the same lies about fraudulent elections that he's used for many months now, even starting before the election itself, and with the intention of stopping the Congress's review of the Electoral College certification. And it did succeed in postponing it briefly, although fortunately it was finished early this morning. So the system, the building finally regained control, but it's a pretty sad spectacle when you see a president behave that way.
Yeah, so as many have, they said that he incited this. Nancy Pelosi and others are calling for Mike Pence, the vice president, to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove him from power. Mike Pence would then be in charge for these last under 2 weeks. What's your sense? Is that A, realistic and possible? What's your sense of the 25th Amendment?
Well, I think it's a very bad idea. I think people have got to look at where we stand. We've got 13 days to go. I'm not saying there's not an inherent risk with Trump in the White House. It's never over with Trump until it's over, and then even then sometimes it's not over. But anybody who's proposing utilizing Section 4 of the 25th Amendment or impeachment, which Speaker Pelosi also referred to, I think has to make the cost-benefit case that we're better off doing something like that than just trying to grit our teeth and make it through. And look, the 25th Amendment, all I'd say is people should read it, and they will understand immediately why it's widely viewed to be the worst drafted part of the Constitution. And it's written in such a way that we could really, for 13 days, end up with two competing presidencies. Which it's inconceivable anybody could argue that that would make us better off than we are today.
Some Democrats told me today the reason, if they don't, the 25th Amendment is one thing. I know they're talking about it takes 2/3. Mike Pence would have to sign off. That's difficult. And impeachment is interesting. Some Democrats told me today they like it because it would prevent Donald Trump, if he was actually impeached in the next 13 days, from ever running again. What's your thought on that?
They're completely wrong about that. The Constitution says that in cases of impeachment, the only punishment is removal from office. And if he's not in office, if they don't finish it in the next 13 days, which they're talking about, it can't possibly work. But even if he is removed from office, it's not criminal. He can run again.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on, okay, let's say none of that happens. You're the National Security Advisor. You know the guy. Some people are saying he's lost it, or this is unusual. You know, you got a lot of people jumping ship right now. Is this the guy that you know? Is this consistent behavior from Donald Trump? And if so, what do you expect him to do in the next 13 days?
Yeah, I have to say, I haven't spoken to the president since I resigned, but I keep in touch with people who do. And for all that I can tell from the outside, this is the same Donald Trump that I knew when I worked in the White House. He may be becoming more frantic because he's running out of time, but all the patterns of behavior that I've seen in the past few days and weeks are consistent with the way he behaved before, and it's just further evidence why he's not fit for office. Now, I will say I do appreciate that with 13 days left, it's possible the president will cause even more damage. I think it's, in fact, in some insignificant ways, it's almost certain he will cause more damage. But the risk that he will do something really catastrophic, I think, is A, remote, and I think B, the people who are still in the administration understand the risks, and most of them, at least, will try and withstand doing something that he orders that would cause real trouble.
Well, and some of them are just leaving. Just before I let you go, you know, countries like ours, we're looking at this I always say avoid smugness. Democracies are very fragile. Again, could this happen in what we saw there, could this happen in other countries like Canada, elsewhere, or is this a uniquely Donald Trump situation?
Well, I think it's largely a Donald Trump situation, although I do recall very vividly, and I think it's important for all of us to remember Ronald Reagan saying, you can lose freedom in every generation. Your institutions can be strong, but it only takes one generation to throw it all away. I do think it's also important to understand that the breach of security at the Capitol yesterday was a catastrophic failure. That mob was not that big. It didn't enter by blasting its way in. It got in because it penetrated a fence. And, you know, I recall vividly the horror in Canada in 2014 when that shooter got into the Parliament building. So it's something that I think needs to be investigated here in the United States. We need to understand better how this failure took place. Because we certainly don't want to encourage anybody else to think they can do the same thing.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The difference, of course, in 2014 in Canada, that shooter was not animated by the leader of the country. In this case, as you say, this was incited by the president. John Bolton, always good to have you on the program, sir. Thank you.